Thanks everybody for joining today for the Kanban Done Right with Jira Software webinar. Just a couple brief introductions. I'm Patrick Howell, co-CEO of Trundl. We're an Atlassian solution partner. Anything hands-on in terms of support or services or just general use case advice, that's what we exist for. So if you have any follow-up questions or things like that, Evan's a great resource. I don't mind marshaling all types of questions to the right people because we've got a lot of engineers here and folks who are agilists, former program managers, things like that. So whatever happens with your use case, if you have a question about Atlassian tools, you can always ask us. The door is open. So I do want to give an introduction to Evan Golden. Evan's a director of engineering and a principal agile transformation consultant here at Trundl. Evan's just a key part of how we're growing, how we're engaging with new types of customers within the Atlassian community and the Atlassian now universe. So Evan's done just about all of it on the customer side, on the developer side, development side, as a Scrum Master, Agilist, a real sort of evangelist of Atlassian tools, an advocate for Jira. Great to have him as part of the team. It's great to have him here for you guys, and you guys should take advantage of him while you're here. So I'm going to speak less now, hand it over to Evan to take things over, but we're really excited you're here, and I'll try to answer questions as they come, keep them in our back pocket here to the last 10 or 15 minutes or so to try to get them answered. So welcome.
Well, quite the intro. So yeah, my name's Evan Golden, as Patrick said. I'm the director of engineering here at Trundl. I also run our professional services in North America. And the topic today is actually something I'm passionate about. I find it quite interesting, and it's surprisingly not talked about as often as one would think. And it's around Kanban. Most webinars and conversations revolve around Scrum and SAFe, which are both great. But Kanban is a framework that I'm super excited to talk about. And really what we're going to do today is talk about Kanban in terms of theory, and we'll walk through some slides, excuse me. And then we're going to get into a demo of how you can use Jira Software to implement what I find to be a good Kanban solution. So we're going to get started. So before we get into Kanban, we find it's really, really important to understand like two sets of principles. And the first one is lean, excuse me. And the second one is agile. So let's start with lean, which you're seeing here on the slide. And it was started by Taiichi Ono. If you're familiar with the Toyota way, really what he was trying to do via lean principles in Kanban was an aim to control and manage work and inventory at every stage of production optimally, okay? And the goal was to remove that waste and get that value to the customer as fast as possible. So let's walk through this cycle real quick. First, you have to understand what your value is. Once you define value, if you're a software development company, maybe it's those features that you've done a ton of market research on, you've interviewed customers, you've studied your competitors, and you identified features that will definitely generate some value to your customer. So you got that identified and understood. And then everything else can be identified as waste, right? So next, once you identified your value, you want to map your value stream. So what are the steps to get that value to the customer? But not only identifying those steps, but also taking those steps and measuring how long it takes to complete each step and how long those handoffs are in between each step. It's all really valuable metrics and information to have and capture over time, because then you can always look to improve. Once we map our value stream, we're going to go ahead and create flow. All right. And what's flow? So flow, I find to be one of the most important metrics to gather and really just principles to understand over time, because really what the goal is here is to maintain a steady flow of that value through your workflow, through your value stream to the customer. If it's interrupted, it'll slow down that value. So we don't want it to interrupt, because developers absolutely hate when their flow is interrupted, and this, because obviously it slows down their work and it slows down the delivery of those features. So once we establish flow, then we want to, or once we create flow, we want to establish pull. And what we mean by that, this is number 4 here on the slide. What we mean by that is we work on an item as we have the capacity to work on it. So there's 2 great books. One of them I'll talk about a little more than the other. One of them is called Project to Product by Dr. Mick Kirsten. He's the founder and CEO of TaskTop, which is a value stream management tool. But the other book that I really like and I recommend that you take a look at is called Making Work Visible by Dominica de Grandes. And she talks about this concept of time thieves. And the 5 time thieves are too much work in progress, conflicting priorities. So too much work in progress means that you're working on too many things at the same time, which means you're less likely to get any one of those things done as fast as you would if you were working on one thing at a time. Conflicting priorities, meaning that if everything is a priority 1, nothing's really a priority 1. Unknown dependencies, we start working on something and then we identify that we have all these blockers in the way. Unplanned work will basically take over your time to work on planned work and therefore not delivering those planned features on time potentially. And neglected work, how much work is sitting in your wait status because you're waiting on another teammate, you're waiting on a vendor. Those are all identified as time thieves in that book. And what those do is they basically disrupt flow, okay? So finally, we want to seek perfection. And really what we mean here, it's a strong word, right? But really what we mean here is relentless improvement. We're trying to constantly get better. And get better is not necessarily just speed. Get better is also a level of quality. Like we constantly want to get better. It's not enough to identify waste and develop a pull system of flow. They are critical, but we need to get better, and we fortunately have some metrics that can help us with that. You know, we talk about throughput, cycle, and lead time, and we'll get more into those in a little bit. So in 1938, Deming, basically a huge thought leader in the space, and he came up with the Deming wheel. It was also called the Deming cycle. He labeled it as Plan, Do, Study, Act, and it's later been renamed to Plan, Do, Check, Act, which you could see here. And super important to understand, because plan is to identify your goal, right? So we're first identifying what it is we want to do. Do is we take components of that plan and we implement them. Notice we're not doing all of the plan. We're taking components of the plan. Study is we're monitoring outcomes. So we're looking for progress. We're looking for success, problems, and areas of improvement. And finally, act. We're closing that cycle. We're integrating our learning into the process, which can adjust the goal, right? So the idea here is if we do this often and fast, we learn faster. So the more components of that plan we deliver, the faster we can learn about those components, adjust the plan, and keep going over and over again. The faster we learn, the faster we can respond to change. So dating myself a little bit, I don't know if you've seen the movie The Princess Bride. This gentleman here, Mr. Inigo Montoya, is a villain that turned into a hero. And when he was a villain, his evil villain boss kept using the word incorrectly, inconceivable. And the famous line is this: "You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means." The same applies to Agile. So Agile is often misused by executive leadership and others, but really one of the things that we see is these declarative statements like Agile is only for IT and engineering. Well, it's actually not true. As a consulting firm, implemented Agile for marketing teams, implemented Agile for HR teams. So there's a lot of ways you can implement Agile principles outside of IT and engineering. I'll also say that you can potentially use Agile for things like writing a book, producing a movie, producing news, production of news to your audience. All these things you can leverage Agile in order to get that out there to your customers faster. Another one is Agile means I could still manage the teams the way I used to, and more will get done faster. I'm sure many of you have heard that before. And there's this concept of Taylorism. I won't bore you with all the bulleted details of it, but basically what it means is micromanaging. And the reason that management typically thinks that way is because they believe Agile is just a process or a framework. Anybody could study the framework. Being Agile doesn't necessarily mean you get a lot of people certified. Being Agile means we have a changed mindset from the top down. So this is a great definition. We're an Atlassian shop, so it came from their reference, but I really do like it. And we're going to take it in just a few different chunks here. The first part, Agile is an iterative approach to project management and software development that helps deliver value to customers faster with fewer headaches. Okay, pretty simple, straightforward. The one I really like here is the one in the middle, though. Instead of betting everything on a big bang launch, which we know is waterfall, right? An Agile team delivers work in small but consumable increments. Now think about that. Think about the plan, do, check, act. We're talking about small batch sizes. We're delivering and working on small batch sizes at a time so we can learn faster and we can respond to change, which amazingly says in the next sentence, requirements, plans, and results are evaluated continuously, so teams have a natural mechanism for responding to change quickly. So really good reference statement. I think it really defines Agile quite well. Which leads us to the Agile Manifesto. So four quick statements here. And what I want to get out of this, what I want you to get out of this is actually that the stuff on the right of the word over on each statement, we're never saying that that's not important, but we're saying that the stuff on the left is more important. For example, processes and tools, super important. It's important to have processes. It's important to have tools to automate those processes. But what we're saying is that the individuals and the interactions are more important than those processes and tools, those communications, those collaborations. Working our comprehensive documentation. It's important to have architecture. It's important to have a requirements documentation and things like that, meeting notes, all those things. However, if your software is not working, really doesn't matter. And the idea here is we want to get working software out to the customer as quickly as we can, even as small of increments and batches as we can that provide value, so that we can continue to get that feedback. All right. Contract negotiation. It's important. In our world, we're a consulting firm. We deal with contracts all the time, and they are important. It's important to understand the scope of what your clients need. But customer collaboration, if I'm not talking to my customer and I don't understand what my customer needs, really it doesn't matter. Following a plan. It's really important to have a plan, but addressing that plan and checking in on that plan so that you can respond to change is more important, we feel. All right, so let's get into Kanban. So Kanban, it's a strategy or a method, and it's used to optimize flow of value. There's that term again, that word again, through a process that uses visual and pull-based systems. So the term visual is super important here. And there may be various ways to define value. So it could, you could consider the needs of your customer, the end user, the organization, the environment, et cetera. But Kanban comprises of three practices that I talk about. Not necessarily limited to these three, but these are three that I find particularly important. One is defining and visualizing a workflow. All right, so we need to understand what our workflow is, and we need to. So not only do we need to define that, but we need to visualize that, because then we want to actively manage our work items in that workflow. So we have our workflow identified. We know what our states are, and then now we want to actively manage those work items through those states, but always looking to improve the workflow. So visualize it, manage your items in it, and improve it. Okay. And quick fun fact, Kanban is Japanese for signal card. And really what we mean by that is a team will pull in or select work when there's a clear signal of capacity to do so. So right in the definition. Some theory behind it. So Kanban draws on established flow theory. Not limited to these bullets, but again, I find them quite important. One of them is around systems thinking. One of them is around those lean principles we just talked about. The third one, really important, managing work in progress. And then the last one, quality control. So we're thinking holistically, we're eliminating waste, we're identifying and eliminating waste, we're managing how much work we're doing at any given time, and we're doing it with high levels of quality. So continually improving a Kanban system over time based on these theories is one way for organizations that they can attempt to optimize the delivery of value. So your Kanban board, we'll show you this in Jira, of course, but basically column per status in your workflow. Work items move from left to right as capacity is available. You can control your work in progress, ideally in your Kanban board, and visualize that. You can avoid work items from piling up because, again, you're seeing everything. It's all in real time. And you need the ability for anyone at any level of the organization to be able to see what's going on, particularly if leadership can come in and see the amount of work in progress. Maybe that unplanned work can wait in the backlog. Maybe it doesn't have to jump into work in progress immediately because they see the amount of work going on. Ensuring work items don't age unnecessarily. So we want to make sure that in our Kanban boards that things don't, grow old, if you will. So some important metrics. We'll talk about these during the demo as well. But cycle time, the time it takes to complete a work item went from when the development starts, and lead time, the time it takes to complete a work item from when it was requested. Some other important metrics live around the 5 time thieves that we talked about. One of them being unplanned work. Being able to identify your unplanned work and visualize it and see it and know how much of it there was is important. How many unknown dependencies you have is important. How much time are you waiting on stuff? Super important when you don't finish features based on a planned time release, and because you can identify that a lot of your work was unplanned or you were waiting on things. Throughput, the number of items that we can complete through our workflow over a period of time, and our work item age. Again, what's the average age of our work items on our board, work in progress. Cost of delay. So it's a way of prioritizing what we work on, and basically what we're doing with cost of delay. And I'm going to show you a pretty neat trick that we did in Jira to show this. Is you're measuring the impact of time on valuable outcomes. So what I mean by that is you need to identify how much potential revenue you could lose if a feature is delayed, and then you identify how much time you think it's going to be delayed, and then you get your cost of delay. So for example, if every week this feature A might lose $5,000 and I might delay it for 8 weeks, then your cost of delay is, do the math, $40,000. So and then based on that number alone, you could go in there and say, well, we don't want to lose this $40,000 or this $50,000. So let's go ahead and prioritize based on what we can get the most revenue out of if we deploy quicker. Another way to prioritize features nicely is around classes of service. So these are 4 commonly used classes of service. We'll just walk through them quickly. Expedite, it's the highest class of service, and it's really reserved for work items and projects that have that critical priority and a very high cost of delay. So notice that takes into account here. Fixed delivery date, the second most important, and it's basically dedicated to assignments with a fixed date and a high cost of failing to deliver on time. Standard, the majority of your tasks will be standard class of service, and basically it's reserved for items with a moderate cost of delay, but they tolerate longer lead times and don't require much prioritizing. And then intangible. So these are the ones that can also be considered as chores. You have to complete them, but there's no rush or for processing them right away. These things come with little to no cost of delay, and they allow for very long lead times. All right. So what you all came for, we'll get into the demo. And Patrick, you can see my screen, my browser.
I can, yes.
Okay, great. So I'm in my Jira Software cloud instance here, and I created a Kanban board in my demo Kanban project. And what you're looking at here is the backlog view. So Atlassian creates this plan feature where you can put your first status in a backlog view, particularly because you don't want your far left status of your Kanban board to include all of your backlog, which would get very busy and make it hard for you to prioritize and add things to potentially. So we have this backlog view where everything starts down here in the backlog, right? And it's very easy to create things. So maybe I want to create like story 5CA, story 5CB, okay? And then what we have with this is our epic panel. So we have our epic panel here, so we can easily link our stories to our epics. You'll see in epic 5, I have 18 issues, 6 are completed, and I can grab 2 of them like this and just drag them right into that epic. Okay, so now you can see it added epic 5 there. I also have a version panel, so I can leverage my releases, which in Jira is that fixed version field, right? So you'll see I have release 2 and release 3 here. Release 2 has 48 issues, 23 are completed with start and end date. So I'm going to go ahead and grab those issues and throw them into release 2. So easy drag and drop stuff. I'll collapse these. And then basically I can go into any one of these issues and you see I get the expanded issue details view. What I want to show here are a few things. One is the type of work. So I added this custom field here, and this allows us the ability to say if the work is unplanned or not, right? And you'll see I added a configuration here where the unplanned work on the far left is red. It really calls it out for us, right? I'm using the component field, but I could use a custom field for my cost to serve, my class of service. So I'm going to say this one's expedite, and go ahead and add that there. And you'll see that I added a configuration here to show the class of service on the backlog view as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab these and bring them to the next status of my workflow, which is selected for development. And let me just get to the top here. And I'm going to put it right here at the top. Okay. And another thing I can do here is that cost of delay that I was telling you about. So in the cost of delay, we created like a global loop transition along with some automation, all out of the box automation, no add-ons. And basically you click that button and it's going to give you those cost of delay fields. So what's that revenue per week that we would lose? Let's say it's $5,000. What's our cost of delay duration in weeks? We'll say 8. And then if I calculate it, you'll see it's going to add the revenue per week, the cost of delay duration, and it does the math for you and it gives you that 40,000. So you get to be able to visualize that right there. Okay. So now I'm in selected for development and I'm doing my work, and you'll see the far left is selected for development. The reason why it's red is I've set some work in progress limits, and I'll show you this in the board settings as well. But you'll see there's a minimum amount and there's a maximum amount. My minimum is 5, my maximum is 15. I'm at 17. So I'm just going to move these over to show you that it'll clear it, and then it adjusted it here as well. Notice my workflow. My workflow has a bunch of different like hold statuses as well. So I have my selected for development. That's kind of a hold status. I'm waiting to start my development, right? It's super important, I feel in Kanban, to be able to measure that as well, to be able to measure how long things are waiting for something else, or things are stale and stagnant, stuff like that. And you'll notice then I have my in development, then I get the ready for testing, right? Another hold status. Then I get in testing. The waiting status I'm using here, which I added to my workflow to basically put in there if anytime I'm waiting for something like a vendor, I'm waiting for something like a teammate, maybe a manager's approval, you could throw it in here, and you want to be able to calculate your wait time. Okay. And then ready for release, throw it in there, another wait status. And when I'm ready to release stuff from my board, I just throw it into the done column, and I have my little release button up here. I could select 2.0.0. I'm not going to release it, but you'll see there's 50 issues in this release. 23 are resolved, 27 are unresolved. It's going to ask me what I want to do with the rest that are unresolved. And if I go to here, this will take me right to my release hub. Oh, my issue navigator, excuse me. This will take me to my release hub. Cancel this. And then in my release hub, you can see my releases. I can click on 2.0.0. It's going to give you all the details of 2.0.0. There's 50 issues in the version. 23 are done, 2 are in progress. 25 are to do. It gives you the list of all of them with all the details you want. And it also gives you release notes. So you get the release notes right there as well. So I can release from the board, and then I can use the release hub to visualize my release notes and all those important things that you need to see. Notice too here, if I move this one to waiting, this column turns yellow because my minimum is 1. So if I don't reach my minimum, then it's going to turn yellow. If I go over my maximum, it's going to turn red. Okay. Notice I have configured on my cards, the red on the left-hand side for unplanned work. I have configured my cost of delay here as well. So I have some fields added on there. Just to show you how that looks in the board settings. So the columns section is the area I want to focus on. So you'll notice that we have our different columns with our different statuses mapped to those columns. The last one here, we're setting a resolution to it. And we also have the Kanban backlog is using the backlog status, right? So I have these statuses mapped to these columns. And this is where you also set your cost of delay as well, right there. Okay, I can also set swim lanes. So what I'm doing with swim lanes is my class of service. So it's basic JQL showing the component equals expedite, and that's going to create my swim lanes. All right. I can also do quick filters, and I'll show you what those look like on the board. I created one here for expedite as well. If I go back to my board, you'll see that I have my quick filter up here for expedite. If I click it, it's going to show me only the stuff that's expedited and filter everything else out. You'll notice here too, I can collapse my swim lanes. And now I only have the expedite swim lane toggled open. So the board gives you a lot of ways to visualize a lot of different data, which is super important because anyone on the team can go here, any level of management can go here and they can visualize what's going on at any point in time. Okay. It also comes with some interesting reports. So you get reports by board. Basically with your Kanban board, it comes with a lot of this out of the box stuff here that I'm going to show you most of in a dashboard, but it also comes with a cumulative flow diagram and a control chart. So the cumulative flow diagram, So the cumulative flow diagram is basically showing you the number of issues per status per day, right? And I can refine this report. So maybe I only want to see the stuff that was selected for development, it's not in waiting. I can apply that. So it'll adjust it for me. And really what I'm looking for here are bottlenecks, right? It's not going to tell me why necessarily, but it's going to tell me what it was. So there might be one day where we have a lot of stuff, a lot more stuff in to do and a lot less stuff in progress and done. And maybe 2 of our team members were on vacation that day. So it shows you where things are and so that you can then go figure out why it is what it is. The control chart, it shows you a lot of different data. It's quite busy, actually, in my opinion, and you can select the time frame here. You could select which columns you want to show the data from, as well as which swim lanes and which quick filters. Basically, based on the criteria you enter here, it's going to show you the average time that the data lived in. Data was within those statuses. The median, the minimum time, the maximum time, the number of issues. The solid cluster of issues will basically is representing a cluster of issues. I can click on it and it'll show me the max, average, and minimum time, as well as the issue navigator link to get to it. The hollow ones are single issues, so it's going to show you all the information about that individual issue. You get the average in red, the rolling average in blue, and the standard deviation. So pretty complex report. I'm going to show you another easy way to look at like wait time and things like that as well. So if I go to dashboards, created a really, really simple dashboard where you can visualize a lot of your data. I'm using some out of the box gadgets, but I'm also using another add-on that we work with quite a bit with our customers called Custom Charts for Jira. Some of you might be familiar with it. It's by a vendor, Old Street Solutions. Really, really nice add-on, and I'll walk you through it in a second. But I'm going to start with the left-hand side, and you'll see I have a basic filter results. I'm showing all of my stories. I have some metadata in here, like cost of delay, my class of service, if it's unplanned or planned work. Gives me just a way to visualize and click through all of my work items and what's going on with them. We have another gadget here out of the box for resolution times. It's your average resolution time over a period of time per day. Your average age, so your average age chart of your issues per day over a period of time. So high level bar charts, you can click on them and get to the issue navigator. And then we have on the top here, the another out of the box one for your Jira roadmap. So you'll see I have release 2.0.0, and it just shows me a very quick view of what's going on with your release. But custom charts for Jira gives you a much more granular level of detail in terms of your reporting. So if you look at this first one here, it's a basic tile chart. But if I go into configure, it gives me a lot of stuff I can do with it. And basically, I can select my source, which is the project, the JQL, or whatever it is. I'm going to select this whole project. I'm charting by the type of work because I want to see unplanned work. I can calculate by the count of issues, or I can calculate by sum or average. I can pick whatever I want to count by, story points, etc. And what's really super neat about it is I can do a chart title, and down here I can actually select to hide and show things, which is very nice. I can select the color for each one of them, including hex. I can change the name of any of these values, as well as I can combine values. So I can add options to individual values, which is super nice as well. Little fun thing they added. You can turn it into dark mode. I guess that's fun if you like that. You can order it. And then you have a lot of display options as well. So great add-on which gives you really easy charts to use, and anyone can use it. So this is representing my number of issues that are unplanned in a tile chart. Very bold statement, right? It's out there for me, and it's really clear that I have 16 issues unplanned. Very easy to see. Two-dimensional filter right here, basically showing the number of issues by release, by class of service. A tile chart again, the number of issues per status. Pie chart, the number of issues per assignee. Maybe I want to go in here and I want to change this to a bar chart. I can do that as well. I can see it as a bar chart. That's probably not going to give me much. As a line chart, a single right there. So there's a lot of ways you can use this tool to visualize things differently. Stacked bar chart for the number of issues by assignee by status. Bar chart for the number by class of service. I have a simple created versus resolved that custom charts does over a period of time, as well as a grouped bar chart by class of service and status. So that's a dashboard, but I'm going to show you another add-on real quick, and it's called time and status. And this is, I think, time and status for Jira Cloud. And basically what it does is it gives you just a really neat visual view where you can dissect your data and slice and dice it any way you want. So I'm going to start here with the table view. You could basically filter your issues. You can show the number per row. You can update your source. And then basically, I'm looking at every issue over that period of time and the time it's been in each status. I can also do the assignee time, the average time, status count, et cetera. There's a lot of things you can do with this. And what I like about it are a few things. One, I get this view, but my favorite view is this pivot chart. Because with this pivot chart, I can actually see over this period of time for each individual issue, the time it's been in each status and overall total time and status. So over this time period, I had 844 I think hours that were basically my issues were in waiting status. So it gives you that data very easily. So between the dashboard, which gives you all the unplanned work, this gives you your wait time right here as well. And you can see it in a chart if you prefer to see it that way. So you got a pie chart or bar chart stacked area. So it gives you a lot of options there. And you can update your metrics, days, hours, minutes. You can export the charts to any visual you want. And you can export the other data types, the pivot chart, to CSV. And you can also export all the custom charts for Jira charts to like PNG, JPEG, a few other things like that. So that is the demo. We have about 25 minutes left, so we made good timing. Patrick, do we have questions?
We do have certainly one question. One question is, what's the difference between Scrum and Kanban? When would we use Kanban over Scrum?
Yeah, so good question. So Scrum, the differences between Scrum and Kanban, actually, we have a really good guide that we just got released on our website, Patrick, on the Kanban, right? And at the bottom, it has a table for the differences between Kanban and Scrum. Maybe we can send that link out after this. And basically, the idea is with Kanban, there's a few things. You have identified roles in your Scrum Master, your product owner, and your development team. Kanban does not have identified roles. And you also have specific ceremonies in Scrum. Your time boxed sprint, which is usually 2 weeks. So you're time boxing different iterations of planned work. And then you do your review, you do your daily stand-up. So it's very defined that way, as well as the individual artifacts. So you have like a product backlog, you build your sprint backlog for your individual sprints. So it's much more it's a much more process-centric framework, and it has a lot of different attributes that Kanban does not have. Why I like Kanban is because it's representing my process, and I'm steadily flowing work through it, and I can release on demand. I can release whenever I feel is the appropriate time to release, where with Scrum, you typically don't release until the end of an individual sprint or that 2-week time box. There's also an option, though, to answer a little further the question. There's also an option where you can do what's called Scrum Bon, where you can use the Kanban flavor of a pull system and whatnot, and just the flow itself. And then you can also utilize the good stuff in Scrum, which are the ceremonies, the roles, and the artifacts, or the artifacts. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yes, Ivan. This is Akila. I asked that question. Thank you. That helps. The other question I have is like you mentioned, right? In Kanban, we don't have cadence, regular cadence like 2 weeks or 4 weeks sprint. But is there a specific scenario we should be using Kanban? Like if we are not delivering or doing frequent releases, that's when we will be using that's when we should be using Kanban versus Scrum?
I wouldn't say that, because you still want to release value as quickly as you can with Kanban. I guess what I'm saying, that I would use Kanban, like I use it with my hardware companies, my hardware engineering companies, or my software companies that are doing security-based software, and there's no way they can get like a working piece of software done by the end of a 2-week or a 4-week sprint. So they just want to work on these features over a longer period of time and then release when ready. So they can leverage something like Kanban. I wouldn't limit it to just that also. Kanban is just a different way of working that some people prefer over the more like structured time boxed Scrum.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. That helps.
Sure.
I've made it so everybody can self-unmute, I think, if you have a question. Hopefully I've done that properly.
Guess no other questions.
Sure, everybody?
All right.
Really sure? Because usually we've been holding steady with the number of attendees. Usually once the demo's over, people flee. No other questions? Okay. Cool. Oh, wait, hold on. Q&A came in. Maybe I didn't allow people on chat or to be able to speak. Khalid asked, are there any valuable Kanban specific certifications we should aspire for? Any suggestions?
I wouldn't say aspire for. There are Kanban professional certs through Kanban University. Another organization that I actually really like what they're doing with Kanban is called prokanban.org. And they have a certification as well. That, from what I understand, is it's more, that one has like a pretty large written exam, as opposed to some of the other certs where you go to like a 2-day class and you get a cert. So it's not like your certified Scrum Master where you would go out and and get a highly aspired for certification.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? You can just come off mute and ask.
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
So I'm curious, I see you're doing a lot with custom charting. I'm wondering if this is just because you're in the cloud, or would you say the data center server version would allow you to do the same type of custom charting?
Yeah, so that add-on custom charts for Jira, it's in the marketplace,
Okay.
and it's available for all platforms.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you so much.
And I mean, I'm not saying this. I mean, we're a partner of theirs, but I'm not. I would never promote an app unless I really, really like it and like
Right.
using it. And their development team is very responsive as well, so they're good.
Okay, great. Yeah, I love what you've done with yours. So I'm using the Jira. We're moving to Jira actually on Monday, and I'll be standing up some Kanban teams. So of course, yeah. So I was worried about the ability to be as customizable as, say, like, not to bring up competitors, but like Plan View and Kanbanize and those places. But I love what you've done, so it's good to know.
Yeah, thanks. And all the stuff I showed you today was on a cloud instance, but it's all, you can do every bit of what I showed you in server and data center.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
Sure. I see Kevin is off mute. Do you have any question, Kevin? Let me call you out.
Ivan, sorry, this is Akila. Another question. You mentioned that the differences, what you explained, also exist in your website.
Yeah, so we just released like an article about Kanban, and includes the differences. Patrick, we'll just send that out to the attendees after.
We will.
Right?
Yes, we'll send that out.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? Well, it's good. We got some questions.
Yeah,
That was fun.
absolutely. Well, you guys have my contact information, so if other things come up in the back of your head, send them over my way. I'll connect Evan with you. And
Could I ask one more question? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Sorry. I wanted to find out. I noticed again. Did you show actual? You showed your Kanban board, didn't you? The actual Kanban board, or did you? Okay, I remember seeing the backlog, but maybe I didn't. I missed for some reason the actual Kanban board.
Yeah,
because
right.
I was wondering. I don't think, does Jira have any ability to do cross horizontal or splitting of the columns? It looks like I don't think they do, but it looks like you kind of made use of the components and other things to make it still work for you. So I was just curious if if they do have that ability. I noticed, I wasn't sure, so that's what I'm asking.
Sure. Are you talking about swim lanes?
Well, like, yeah, swim lanes, being able to split the swim lane, like doing, or yeah, I was curious.
Yeah, so I'm using swim lanes right here by.
Okay, so you're kind of splitting them horizontally as opposed to like having a vertical column and splitting that vertically down the middle. Okay.
Well, I have vertical columns that are representing my workflow.
Right.
So I have drag and drop items, but I'm also breaking them down in swim lanes by class of service.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
But you can do it by anything. You can do it by any search query you want. You can create a swim lane.
Okay, got it. All right, thank you.
Yep. Good stuff.
Hi, this is Renu. Sorry, I didn't understand this minimum and max feature that you are representing over here. What does exactly that mean over there?
Yeah, good question. So basically in your configuration under columns, the minimum and maximum is representing your appropriate work in progress per status, right? So if I'm in development, I want to have at least one item in development. If I have less than one, it's going to turn yellow, the column. And I don't want to have any more. I'm controlling my work in progress by saying I don't want any more than 4. And the second I put more than 4 cards in there, it turns red.
Okay, so this is basically controlling your progress. Okay, got it.
Yep, that's right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
How are you accounting for blockers? Or are you accounting for blockers? And is that waiting or?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm using the waiting status for that.
Okay.
Yeah, there are other ways to do it. Like you could have like a field, a
Right.
label or
Yeah.
something. You could
Okay.
color the card through the configurations that's blocked. So
Gotcha.
a
Yeah.
lot of ways to do it.
Right. Right. Thank you.
Sure. Anything else? We got about 14 more minutes, or we can give you guys your time back either way. Oh, here we go. Demo session available for replay later. Patrick, are we going to put the video on YouTube
Yes.
or something?
Yeah, we'll have it up. Yeah, we'll get it for everybody, including those who didn't show.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go, Guy. All right.
Awesome.
Oh, I
Thank you.
have one more question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Is there a way to reach
No.
you after, like, say on LinkedIn or something, to ask you some additional questions?
Yeah, actually, one of the ways you can, or any of you can reach me directly is on our website.
Okay.
Patrick, is the link to my calendar on the Agile transformation page?
I believe it is, but also I will put Evan's email and that link itself in the kind of summary response to this webinar. So
Yeah.
you will have it in your inbox.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I do. We typically we're good with like having like a free 30-minute call with me, and we could just chat about whatever questions you have.
Oh,
So you could
wonderful.
so he'll have my calendar link on there, and you could just put something on my calendar when it's convenient for you.
Okay. Thank you.
All righty. I
Perfect.
keep saying we're going to stop, and then
I know.
someone comes on to you.
It's my fault. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I like it.
All right. Cool.
All right. Well,
All right. Thank you
thank
so
you,
much,
everyone.
everybody.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.